everybody, and welcome to the mid-season Around the Boot. Steve Schneider, LHSAA Network, bringing in Garland, Gillen in the Crescent City first. And Garland, I don't know that it's a report card, but it is definitely for the regular season halfway through. It's flown by. If you talk about teams that are going to be in the Dome, which I'm sure you have some, then it's maybe a third of the season. What's your big take so far? What's your surprise? And where would you like to start?
Well, Steve, all week, the big story in New Orleans has been St. Aug Carr. Stadium was sold out last night. Coach Valdez talked about this was a measuring stick to kind of figure out where his team is at. And then Bryce Brown, opposite, I talked to him on Thursday. He's like, it's just another game for us, which I understand for Bryce because they played American Heritage. They're state champions. Like, they've been in all these big games. Well, the big plays came from Carr's side. St. Aug is a good team, but Carr is just that good, and they beat up on St. Aug pretty good, 42-21.
As I said on Friday night in the boot, I think St. Aug's got great talent, but it's really young. Like 2/3 of his roster are sophomores, and Carr is, able to play young players in a lot of the games because they get leads and they put other people in, so that nobody that really goes out there is inexperienced.
Yeah, a very obscure stat. St. Aug was the first team from Louisiana to score a touchdown against Edna Carr. I'm like, that really came out of the blue, but St. Aug did get a touchdown in. But John Johnson accounted for 5 touchdowns. Agent Zero, Aiden Hall for Edna Carr, who's an LSU commit, had a big interception into the game. Berman was rocking last night. They're the top in the Catholic League. But after that, Steve, I have no idea who is like second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in the Catholic League because I thought Brother Martin would be undefeated going to play Carr this upcoming week, and then they got beat up by Rummel, and then Jesuit barely beat Holy Cross, and then John Curtis barely beat Easton. So this is going to be a battle every single week all the way through week 10.
Certainly Curtis is out there and kind of the outlier, and of course we're looking at week 10. Our game of the week is Rummel and Carr.
Oh, wow.
Can Rummel, get there to where they can be perhaps the biggest challenge the Cougars face?
Yeah, Rummel has a fantastic running back in Jaden Terrence, who had 3 touchdowns last night, including his big one for 83 yards. They forced 3 turnovers or 3 interceptions of Hudson Fields, had a blocked Brother Martin's only points were off a block punt. So Rummel barely lost to John Curtis. John Curtis is undefeated. So it's like just try to figure that one out. And if we go outside the Catholic League, I thought it was a very impressive victory by Destrehan last night, getting past Madeline Adams' Terrebonne Tigers. That's payback because last year Terrebonne beat Destrehan. Right. So Destrehan got it this time around. So I'm impressed by that. And then St. James, Steve. Some about Vacherie. They handed St. Charles Catholic their first loss of the season. St. James is going to be in the Dome every single year. That's almost like one of the things you can like count on is St. James being a competitor. So that one also caught my eye that St. Charles Catholic got their first loss of the year.
Yeah, Levanta's an amazing coach everywhere he's been. And there's some experts who are saying that he may have the best offensive and defensive player in the state. I mean, those guys just keep showing up and showing out, and we've certainly seen, not just this year, but last year, these young guys have stood out.
Yeah, no, I love covering St. James. You talk about offenses. I was also, I know you're well versed, Steve, that I talk about Country Day. They scored 62 points last night. Their quarterback threw for 6 touchdowns for the second time this season. It was against Patrick Taylor. So covering that team, I mean, their offense is just every single week. It's called basketball on grass. The problem is their defense isn't always there. And you saw that when they played Episcopal. That running back at Baton Rouge, Steve, at Episcopal High, Taj Callahan, is fantastic. I think he got Player of the Week at one of the local stations in Baton Rouge for his 5 touchdown performance. So yeah, that's another team that definitely is to watch out for in the New Orleans area if they can play some defense, but they can't right now. So, but offense, killing it.
Yeah, and you look at the shades of separation. So St. Charles beats Dunham in Elijah Haven. Mm-hmm. Then we had them on our game of the week, and they basically ran Ascension Catholic out of the building. And Ascension Catholic comes back and beats Episcopal on the road.
Ah,
Again, another high-scoring game. Central Catholic has talent. They just have a new coach who's only had a few games with these guys, and they bounced back big. Obviously, it was not Dunham; it was Episcopal, but those are what teams in given years in terms of that rivalry. So
yeah, yeah. It from the top down. I'm starting to get an idea, Steve. Like you said, I look at it as we're only a third through because your show's going to go all the way to the back end. My show's going to go all the way to the back end. So yeah, last night I actually said leaving. We are a third through the season because when you cover a team like Edna Carr and a team like Destrehan or St. James or Edie White will probably be in the mix at the end. So yeah, we're only a third through.
well, I appreciate you for the first third, and look forward to the next third, and then of course the playoffs. We'll be doing playoff games this year, which will be fun for us for the first time. So picking the best game in the state should be interesting this go round. But appreciate you being on Around the Boot, Garland.
You got it, Steve.
All right, more of the show coming up right after this.
For over 100 years, our families have gathered together to share with each other our challenges and hopes, to take this light we've been gifted and paint a brighter future for the next generation. The seeds we plant today are the bounty we harvest tomorrow. As farmers, we know that together we're stronger than we could ever be apart. We're the Louisiana Farm Bureau, and we're the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
If you want to break the rock, you need to make yourself indestructible. If you want to play between the hedges, you need to work out there, up there, down there, everywhere. If you want to reach the win bar, you need to lose sleep, lose count. You need to play every game like you got nothing to lose.
And welcome back to Around the Boot. Jake Martin up in Monroe, nice enough to join us. And Jake, we're basically polling around the state. What's jumped out at you? What surprised you? What are you paying attention to a third of the way through the season if you're going to be in the Dome, or half the way through the season if we're talking regular season?
Yeah, I think for us up here, we got the fever for District 25A. I mean, this has been something we've been talking about all summer. We were looking at it going, hey, it could be better than last year, which is saying a lot because you had Ruston play for a state title, you had Ash play for a state title, and you could have had Neville play for a state title if not for a special teams touchdown from Central very late in that ball game. So,
Sure.
I mean, you could have 3 teams in the Dome representing that district, and we felt like it had the chance to be better this year. And I think so far it's kind of played out that way, simply because you have West Monroe beating Catholic, you have. Ruston was off to a hot start. They lost last night to Stephenville, but still, Ruston, a lot of people thought they'd take a huge step back. They haven't done that. Ash is unbeaten, and I was literally just writing about it. I think Ash has outscored their opponents like 254-34. So they're crushing people, and obviously they got a quality win over Destrehan, always a tough team to beat. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're buzzing about. In fact, I give Aaron Dietrich credit on our radio show. He asked a question earlier in the week. He said, is Neville the fifth best team in this district? And you immediately go, are you crazy? Like, what are you talking? Were you drinking? Like, why would you even suggest that? And
Well, they've had some injuries, right? So
they've had some injuries and they lost two in a row. And like, you think about it and you go, well, at that point, maybe they are, because, you couldn't say West Monroe is because they just beat Catholic. Ouachita's unbeaten. By the way, they just got a huge victory against Franklin Parish. I mean, that was the biggest game in Winsboro in decades. And
yeah, I want
Ouachita
to talk about that for sure.
Ouachita just hammered them. And so, obviously Ruston was unbeaten and so was Ash. So it's kind of like, okay, maybe they are at this point. But I still think Neville couldn't be considered as one of the teams to win this district because they just have that much talent. So I can't wait, man. You could tell I'm buzzing about it and I'm excited for it. And, if you look at that district, non-district play, including Pineville, which, Pineville is not exactly on the same standard as the other. Yeah, not on the same level. But even with Pineville, they're off to a 25-5 combined record. So, I mean, that's a pretty good start for your non-district slate.
No question. So the Lion Pride is definitely back. That was unbelievably impressive. And we've been kind of, seeing it coming. But, man, what a statement, huh?
It was a huge statement. And, talking with Benji Lewis after that game, he was saying, look, we always talk about the stars, Montreal Connor, MJ Dade, Waddell Clark. For anybody in the state who haven't heard about those guys, they're extremely impressive. And I got to say, Waddell Clark, I hate to compare to Cavante Turpin. Even Benji Lewis, who was on that staff at Neville with Cavante Turpin, he just makes Cavante Turpin type plays, meaning he will tip a ball to himself and outrun everybody, and he makes it look easy. In fact, just a short little story, when they beat Sterlington, he did that. He tipped the ball to himself and caught it, and Benji Lewis didn't even talk about that after the game, and I was like, what about Waddell? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I see that every day. Like, he's like, it's not special to me anymore because I see it every day. But yes, that was a tremendous catch. And so he's that kind of freak athlete. But after that win against Franklin Parish, Benji was quick to praise his offensive line. And I got to say, that's been the biggest difference. They moved A.J. Washington, who is a super heavyweight power lifter, great power lifter, massive human being. He was on the defensive line with Dylan Berryman. They moved him to center, and I think that's made a world of difference. And in fact, Benji Lewis said it was kind of like a placebo effect. Everybody got better around him, and you're seeing this offensive line really take it to teams.
I really feel what you were saying there. Whether it's Friday night in the boot or around the boot, this state, the people are dialed in, and I go back to like Odell Beckham Jr. making one-handed catches, right? Somebody notices that, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. And all of a sudden you have all these kids, not just receivers, DBs.
Yeah.
They're all aspiring to be the guy that, gets the world's attention. And that's just feeds off itself. And then it becomes like, oh, well, like, this is what we see every week from this guy and this guy.
But Waddell does it every week. He had another great catch last night. I asked Waddell about it too. He said, "Yeah, I do that every." That's my coaches. I said, "Well, literally, your coach just said that." They're just so athletic, and Ouachita is a senior-laden team. Like, this was the year they circled. Like, okay, we can compete this year. And if you look at their schedule last year, they won 4 games last year, but 3 of those games were decided by like 5 total points, and that included West Monroe and Ruston. So we knew they were close, and we felt good about them. But to see them at 5-0, like, they're living up to it, man. They're really, really good.
Yeah, I was in Franklin Thursday night for the Jules Sumner Franklin game. Went to overtime, and Coach Salt had said, "Look, when I got here, we were like 3-7, but only one game wasn't like right down to the wire." And so they're in the dome the next year because they laid that foundation that first time, and that's what you see over and over with these teams.
No doubt.
Well, I appreciate you being on. Let's have a good second half of the regular season and check back.
Sounds good, man. I can't wait.
All right, Jake. More of Around the Boot coming up right after this.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioneer Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Protect what matters most to you and find out the many ways you can benefit. 100% free tuition and fees to all state colleges. Job training in over 150 different career fields, healthcare, pay, and much more. The Louisiana Army National Guard. Part-time service with lifelong benefits. Find out more by visiting www.lang-recruiting.com.
No one ever thinks they'll be in this position. Buying medication online could put you here, or here, or here. Counterfeit pills and other illicit substances are being laced with fentanyl, and fentanyl kills. It's 50 times stronger than heroin. Medical professionals can't even tell the difference between a real pill and one that is fake. At least not until they do your autopsy. Don't take anything online that doesn't come from your doctor. Buying online can leave you flatlined.
For over 100 years, our families have gathered together to share with each other our challenges and hopes, to take this light we've been gifted and paint a brighter future for the next generation. The seeds we plant today are the bounty we harvest tomorrow. As farmers, we know that together we're stronger than we could ever be apart. We're the Louisiana Farm Bureau, and we're the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
And welcome back to Around the Boot. Steve Schneider, LHSAA Network, bringing in the Acadiana expert. That would be Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, KATC. Jamarcus, welcome to the show once again. And in your neck of the woods, there's so many storylines, but I feel like we got to start with the team that was big news last week when they lost, and bigger news when they won. That would be Lafayette Christian.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Steve. Thank you for having me on, as always. For them to pick up a win on the road against the defending state champion Central Wildcats. My goodness, what an impressive showing. And not to mention Central, scheduled them for homecoming. So like that's normally the game where you're supposed to be the team that's losing. So for
sacrificial lambs, right?
Yeah, man. So for them to go on the road and pick up that type of victory, scoring 51 points, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what Braylon Walker and company has been able to do, and not to mention also Braden Allen, who just actually flipped from being a Tulane commit to Oklahoma.
Wow.
Those guys have been able to do in that neck of the woods, man. It's just been phenomenal.
I remember doing the preseason preview for them, and Matthew Sandford says, anywhere, anytime. We're not afraid of playing anybody. And this was embodying that whole attitude, right? You go in the draw, you get embarrassed. You got to go back out on the road. Your confidence could be super low, but no, they just trucked in there and took one.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Shout out to Coach Standiford, my old grad assistant back when I was at LCU. So I've been knowing him for a very long time, him and his family. And he's been doing a good job with that program, obviously taking over with what the championship pedigree that's always been there. And he's been there for a majority of the time that they were doing all of that, winning and going to championship games. And they've just been able to continue so much success. And so now as they're about to get in the thick of district play, obviously they're going to have to face a Notre Dame team at some point down the line. We know what Louis Cook and company do there in the Crowley area. They've been playing extremely well, actually beating Cecilia last night, I think by 10 points, dropping about 40 on them, and just playing extremely well. So
and that comeback win they had against Catholic New Iberia, right?
Yeah. I mean, Coach Cook always does a really good job at scheduling a tough non-district slate. That way, once he gets to district, it's just like we've already been rolling. We're 4 or 5 weeks deep. We're playing good football right now. So let's just steamroll our way into another district championship. So that's what makes the Pios so phenomenal in the way that they've been doing things over these past couple of years, especially.
I guess most of the attention has been select schools, right? You got VC, who's not a bad team, but they play a tough schedule, and without D'Artes as the ringleader, it's been tough for them to compete like they did last year, winning a state championship, and then you've got at least 2 or 3 other teams that could make that claim. St. Thomas More would be one, rally, and I think it's 2 weeks in a row they've had comebacks and victories.
Man, it's what they've been able to do there has been impressive. I think the week before against Acadiana, they were down 28-10, I think it was, and they were in the fourth or the third, midway in the third quarter. Me and my photog, I'm sitting there and I'm editing another game, and so I'm watching it on their live stream, and I start seeing the score chip away, and I look back and I'm like, man, it's a 3-point game now, and then I see. Cole Bergeron, who's been phenomenal in these past couple of weeks, just absolutely dotting up defenses. He rallies them back and they win the game. And then the next week, it's the same thing. They're down.
Neville, yeah.
Against Neville. They have an opportunity and they put together a drive. They onside kick it. They get the ball back. He throws a game-winning touchdown. And it's been really impressive. STM has always been a very disciplined program. Another team that has a strong championship pedigree over there with Coach Jim Hightower. But, man, they have something that they love about having fourth quarter theatrics and big into-the-game moments for some reason this season, and it's been working well for them.
Well, Bergeron is 8 years in the system, and his mechanics seem to be flawless. Like his understanding of the offense and just the way he executes the plays really stands out.
Yeah, that's the reason the kid's committed to Virginia Tech, man. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't get an even bigger, powerful offer at some point. And who knows? I heard that Raging Cajuns head coach Michael Desmo was out there last night as they were playing against Westgate. So who knows? He might be trying to early recruit and get another STM Cougar there on his roster.
Interesting. You also got some teams that are a little bit further in your viewing area, but Jennings, Erath, there's so many good teams for you to keep track of.
Yeah, man, it is. It keeps me busy all the time trying to keep my eyes in so many different places. Erath, the Bobcats out there at 5-0. Jack Landry had that offense absolutely electric last night. I think they dropped 43 points. They've been playing extremely well. Jennings and Coach Fuselier, as always, coming in, from Kinder a couple of years ago, and now being able to bring over that mentality, that running game that they've always had, bringing that there with the Bulldogs. It's been a really good year for them so far as well. So as we start narrowing things down here in district play, we'll see who really is able to come out on top and make that late push towards the playoffs.
We'll keep our eye on Cecilia and Turlings and all those other teams that deserve that attention. Jamarcus, appreciate you jumping on with us around the boot.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. More of the show. We'll wrap up in just a minute. Stay tuned.
The LHSAA Network TV app features a 24/7 live channel as well as on-demand content with all the high school sports you want, and it's totally free. The app is available for download on TV-connected devices, including Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. It's the only place where every day is game day. Download the LHSAA Network TV app today.
So it's going to come down to this.
Can they do it?
Oh no, they missed it! Wait a minute! There's a flag on the play!
Protect what matters most to you and find out the many ways you can benefit. 100% free tuition and fees to all state colleges. Job training in over 150 different career fields, healthcare, pay, and much more. The Louisiana Army National Guard, part-time service with lifelong benefits. Find out more by visiting www.lang-recruiting.com.
For over 100 years, our families have gathered together to share with each other our challenges and hopes, to take this light we've been gifted and paint a brighter future for the next generation. The seeds we plant today are the bounty we harvest tomorrow. As farmers, we know that together we're stronger than we could ever be apart. We're the Louisiana Farm Bureau, and we're the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
And welcome back in. Final segment of Around the Boot for this week. We're halfway through the season and kind of just looking around. What surprised us? Who's getting our attention? Jeff Palermo, the voice of many of our championship games and big games of the week, joining us now in Baton Rouge. And Jeff, anything that particularly jumps out at you as we're halfway through the regular season, and for the teams that are going to go to the Dome, it's a third.
I think what we've seen this year, the teams that were really good last year are really good again this year. Edna Carr, for instance, beating St. Aug, who I think is one of the best teams in the state. Catholic High, I know they've had a couple of losses here recently to West Monroe, and then they lost to a team out of Mississippi, but I still think they're very good football team. Zachary is still really good. I mean, they pounded.
Ash is pretty good.
Alexandria Senior High is really good. So I think a lot of these teams that we've been accustomed to being very good continue to be good. And then I think there's always, you get some newcomers out there, like a Jules Sumner, who's off to a 5-0 start. I had the chance to see Vanderbilt Catholic on Friday night, and they got a really good win against Lutcher. They kept Lutcher out of the end zone. There's some talented skill position players there for Lutcher, and Lutcher's got that experienced offensive line, albeit a little bit banged up, but Vanderbilt Catholic held their own to it. So already looking forward to the regular season finale between them and E.D. White, a team they lost to twice a year ago. So St. Thomas More, after a slow start, they're getting it going. Turlings Catholic had a great regular season last year. They're having another really good regular season. Alex Munoz is a really good quarterback. And, I think those that may have thought that Lafayette Christian, maybe they've lost a little bit. Getting a huge win last night against Central, I thought was a huge win for that program. What did they score? 50-some points, I believe it was. And then up in Northwest Louisiana, they just keep playing basketball games up there, 60, 50 point games. It's amazing. And then I guess I'll finish it off on this. I think Sterlington is still really good, even though they lost to Neville. And Neville is a team, man, I did their game last Friday against St. Thomas More. They suffered a heartbreaking loss. Really should have blown St. Thomas More out in the first half. Missed on some opportunities when they could have scored. I thought that was a big win for Neville last night to win by a touchdown against a really good Sterlington team. So would not count out Neville as well this season. So I still think you got your two superpower teams, Catholic High and Edna Carr. I think those are, and I think Ruston. I should put all three of those in there. I think you got your three really, really good football teams that have won state championships, that are going to be there again. It would be disappointing if they don't make it to the Dome. And then obviously a bunch of really good football teams that are having really good seasons so far.
And look, we're dealing with teenagers. That's the fun part about it, the unpredictability. And I happened to catch Guy Mistretta earlier in the year, his little coaches show, saying, Santa Maw is definitely the best team in the district. And he wasn't like, coach speak. Like that's who he believed of the Ascension and Livingston district, which has lots of good programs and teams. And lo and behold, they come out and beat him in the pit. So that just shows you, like, you can be surprised by what high school kids will come up with in certain situations, with whether it's turnovers or big plays or big moments and emotion.
Well, I'll be on the call for the LHSAA network game between Dutchtown and East Ascension, which I believe it's Thursday. So that's probably week 9, I think it is. It's Halloween weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing Owen Fletcher play. I mean, this kid, he ran the ball 26 times last night for 240 yards. He's a junior. He could throw the ball a little bit, but that's when you got your quarterback rushing for 240 yards. That's really, really impressive.
In our game of the week this week, I'm excited to go and see what happens. Parkway against Airline. I went to that game 2 years ago, and Airline may have been looking ahead. I don't know. Maybe that's not the reason that they lost this matchup that they just played against Captain Shreve, but it's just often unpredictable.
You know, Captain Shreve scoring 66 points in a game, and yeah, you know, their running back there, you know, I think it's Jamarcus Platter, I believe is how he pronounces his name. I mean, had some just huge runs against Airline. And I guess that's the thing with Airline. I mean, Airline a year ago put up a lot of points, but where are they at defensively?
We're certainly looking forward to it. Jeff, thanks for being on the show. And as always, keep up the great work.
All right, Steve. Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
All right. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Around the Boot. I'm Steve Schneider, LHSA Network. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on Around the Boot.